Hello, I'm Roger Mudd. Welcome to the History Channel. When Adolf Hitler wrote Mein Kampf, My Struggle, in the 1920s, he described his plan for Germany's conquest of Europe. At the time, it seemed preposterous, but our program reveals a wealth of secret associations that helped him. You'll hear about one of his crucial mentors, a shadowy figure connected to secret societies in Germany and Japan, a covert Nazi interest group which infiltrated Austria, Czechoslovakia, Poland, and the United States, and even a German spy in Hawaii who helped Japan bomb Pearl Harbor. Join us now as the History Channel presents Last Secrets of the Axis.
On September 27, 1940, Hitler's Nazi Germany, Mussolini's Fascist Italy, and the Empire of Japan sign a pact to dominate the world. They will almost succeed. It is called the Axis Pact. This secret Axis blueprint for world domination was the work of one man, now forgotten by history. Hitler's special advisor on world affairs, a personal friend of the Japanese High Command, and a master spy without whom there might have been no Pearl Harbor. His name was Karl Haushofer, keeper of the last secrets of the Axis. Between 1920 and 1945, Karl Haushofer was one of the most influential men in Germany. A friend and mentor of Adolf Hitler, he helped guide the Nazi Party to power. Through his various acolytes and disciples, he gradually extended his influence into every sphere of Nazi policy. His was the ideology that underpinned the Nazi drive for war and conflict, and through his Japanese connections, forged the system of alliances that brought the world to the brink of destruction.
Professor Karl Haushofer has been called Hitler's Merlin. Just as King Arthur had Merlin the magician behind him, so Haushofer stood behind Hitler. And indeed, Karl Haushofer also dabbled in the occult.
Yet throughout all this, he remained in the shadows, a sinister, secretive figure, almost forgotten by history. Karl Haushofer was born in Munich, Bavaria, on the 27th of August, 1869. He was a passionate German nationalist and became a career soldier and an artillery officer. His brilliance and attention to detail quickly led to his appointment to the German General Staff. In October 1908, however, something happened to change Haushofer's life and the history of the 20th century. The German army sent Haushofer to Tokyo to study the Japanese military. The assignment marked the beginning of a love affair with the Orient. Haushofer traveled extensively in the Far East, adding Korean, Japanese, and Chinese to his already extensive repertoire of Russian, French, and English languages. In Japan, Haushofer made the personal acquaintance of the emperor and began to develop a strong interest in militaristic and nationalistic Japanese culture. In 1914, when war broke out, Haushofer returned to Germany to fight on the Western Front. A brilliant soldier, he rose to the rank of Major General. But Germany was to be defeated in the Great War. And after World War I, the Versailles Treaty imposed a savage peace on Germany.
It must be remembered that the victorious Allies blamed Germany for the war. The peace that the Allies imposed was savage. German overseas territories were taken away. The army was restricted to 100,000 men. There was no air force. and the reparations imposed on Germany practically brought the economy to its knees.
The British now controlled Africa, India, and the Middle East. The United States dominated South America and the Pacific. Between them, the Anglo-Saxon sea powers controlled the world's oil and trade routes. Germany and the Eurasian landmass were isolated. Karl Haushofer retired from the army a bitter man. Like many other officers, he felt Germany had been defeated not only by the British and the Americans, but by the betrayal of communists and Jews. While fellow soldiers like Hitler were unemployed and penniless, Haushofer's Japanese experience got him an appointment as professor of geopolitics at Munich University in 1919. It was here that he began to plot the rebirth of Germany's military might. He formulated a political doctrine called Lebensraum, or living space, which asserted Germany's right to conquer and exploit the lands of her neighbors.
This doctrine was based on Haushofer's view of race and history, both of which he believed were on Germany's side. The enemies? These were the naval powers, the United States and Britain. What Haushofer wanted to create was an alliance across the Eurasian landmass, uniting Germany with Russia and Japan to build up a powerful enough group to stand up to the Anglo-Saxon sea powers.
In the 1920s, in the years following the First World War, Haushofer's great Eurasian alliance begins to take shape. Banned by the Versailles Treaty from having an air force or tanks, Germany signs a secret treaty with the Soviet Union. Called the Apollo Pact, it allows Germany to secretly train its soldiers and airmen in communist Russia, away from the prying eyes of the British and French. German aircraft designers, forbidden by the Versailles Treaty from building warplanes at home, are sent clandestinely to produce aircraft for the Japanese. Aircraft of these designs will eventually bomb Pearl Harbor. Germany in the 1920s, however, remained divided and without a leader. Karl Haushofer needed to find someone who could put his idea of Lebensraum into action. He found that person through a chance encounter with one of his students at Munich University, Rudolf Hess.
Hess had acted as Haushofer's adjutant during World War I, and he followed Haushofer to Munich, where he was lecturing. Now, Hess had been born in Alexandria, Egypt. His father was a merchant there. Hess was young and impressionable, and he was excited by the ideas that Haushofer had of bringing together the scattered German people.
Hess was already a member of the fledgling Nazi Party. Its leader was Adolf Hitler. In 1923, Hitler and his small band of Nazis tried to stage a coup in Bavaria. They were easily routed. Hitler and Rudolf Hess were arrested and imprisoned in the notorious Landsberg fortress. In Landsberg, Hitler started to write his blueprint for Nazi world domination. He called it Mein Kampf, My Struggle. But who really wrote Mein Kampf? Imprisoned in the Landsberg fortress, Hitler and Hess received a frequent visitor, Dr. Karl Haushofer.
When Hess was participating in the Beerholt Putsch, he took hostages, and after the failure of the putsch, he released the hostages, but he was then hid by Professor Karl Haushofer in his Munich flat, and he then escaped. He rejoined Hitler in Landsberg prison, where he became Hitler's secretary and took down Mein Kampf. While he was in Landsberg prison, which was a relatively gentle prison, as prisons go, he was visited by General Professor Karl Haushofer, and through Hess, Karl Haushofer was introduced to Hitler. And Hitler was interested in his ideas on geopolitics and the case for more Lebensraum. And through Hess, some of Karl Haushofer's ideas were transmitted into Mein Kampf.
It is even possible Haushofer wrote or edited parts of the